Welcome back to my channel, Dinar and Dong Iraqi Dinar, Economic Shifts, and Prime Minister Soudani's Vision. What it all means for the future. In recent months, Iraq has taken several bold steps in reshaping its financial landscape, moves that have caught the attention of global investors, economists, and political analysts alike. From its oil exports to the possibility of floating the Iraqi dinar, major developments are unfolding under the leadership of Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani. Whether you're considering investing in the dinar or are simply intrigued by global currency trends, Iraq's evolving policies offer insights into broader shifts in international finance and politics. Let's take a detailed look into what's happening behind the scenes, what it means for the Iraqi economy, and how it could affect global markets. 1. Iraq and its ties to the U.S. Federal Reserve. Most people aren't aware that oil-exporting countries maintain accounts with the U.S. Federal Reserve. Iraq is one of them. This arrangement allows Iraq to process and manage large-scale oil revenues in a globally recognized and stable currency, the U.S. dollar. Prime Minister Soudani recently emphasized that Iraq maintains full authority over these accounts. Contrary to rumors or speculation, he clarified that no external entity controls Iraq's funds held in the United States. This affirmation of monetary independence is crucial, especially as Iraq aims to demonstrate its financial sovereignty amid ongoing reforms. What's even more intriguing is Soudani's disclosure regarding cash withdrawals. Previously, Iraq used to withdraw roughly $14 billion in cash annually from the U.S. Federal Reserve System. But after transitioning toward digital and banking-based transactions, that figure has dropped significantly, now sitting below the $10 billion mark. This change not only reflects a modernization of financial operations, but also a step toward transparency and efficiency. 2. Traders and tax changes. A new era of accountability. With the shift from cash-based transactions to regulated banking processes, many businesses and traders are being forced to adapt. In the past, exchange transactions often bypassed strict scrutiny. Traders and customs brokers could move money and goods with minimal interference, especially regarding taxation and import duties. Now, with stricter compliance rules and digitization, that era is ending. These regulatory changes are meant to combat corruption, boost government revenue, and better align Iraq with international financial standards. However, the transition isn't without friction. Many businesses are feeling the pressure, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises that lack the infrastructure to handle such changes smoothly. Economic analyst Salon Yuri has voiced concerns that these new measures, combined with external challenges such as global inflation and shifting U.S. trade policies, may compel Iraq to revise its national budget. Adapting to the new financial ecosystem is essential, but it's also proving to be a tough balancing act for the government. 3. U.S. tariffs and luxury imports. A diplomatic tug-of-war. While U.S. tariffs don't directly impact Iraq's oil exports, thanks to existing exemptions, they do affect other parts of Iraq's import sector. In particular, luxury goods such as high-end vehicles imported from the United States face substantial import duties. Baghdad is coming under increasing diplomatic pressure to reconsider or reduce these tariffs, especially as it seeks stronger economic ties with Western nations. Reducing tariffs might improve trade relationships, but it could also cut into government revenue. Iraq finds itself walking a tightrope, trying to attract investment and maintain good relations, while also protecting its domestic interests and fiscal stability. The Iraqi dinar and exchange rate speculation. Perhaps the most buzzworthy topic among investors is the fate of the Iraqi dinar. Over the years, there's been intense speculation over whether its value would increase significantly, especially as Iraq moves toward greater economic reform. Recently, there's been chatter suggesting the dinar could rise to an exchange rate of between $4.50 and $5 per US dollar. While such estimates remain speculative, they've reignited interest among global investors and currency traders. Why does the dinar matter so much? For one, currency valuation plays a pivotal role in a nation's purchasing power, import-export balance, and inflation rates. A stronger dinar could potentially improve the standard of living in Iraq by reducing the cost of imports. On the other hand, a rapid appreciation without structural economic improvements could make exports less competitive, stalling economic growth. Some analysts argue that current exchange rate adjustments reflect the dinar's fair market value. Others remain cautious, viewing these shifts as temporary and potentially volatile. 5. Oil, the backbone of Iraq's economy. You can't talk about the Iraqi dinar without talking about oil. Iraq is one of the largest oil producers in the world, and oil revenues form the cornerstone of its national budget. As oil prices fluctuate on the global market, so does the strength and stability of Iraq's currency. When oil prices rise, Iraq earns more, which can boost foreign reserves and strengthen the dinar. Conversely, a drop in oil prices can lead to budget deficits and increased borrowing. The current outlook on oil remains cautiously optimistic, with global demand recovering post-pandemic and supply chains stabilizing. This bodes well for Iraq, at least in the short term. But Iraq's over-reliance on oil is also a vulnerability. Economic diversification remains a key goal for long-term stability. Reforms in agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism could reduce this dependency and help stabilize the dinar through non-oil revenue streams. 6. Political stability and institutional reform. Currency strength isn't just about economics, it's also about confidence. Investors, both local and foreign, look for political stability, strong institutions, and consistent governance. Under Prime Minister Soudani, Iraq has shown signs of political resilience. Anti-corruption campaigns, legal reforms, and economic modernization are all part of the broader agenda. Although challenges remain, especially concerning sectarian tensions and infrastructure issues, there is a growing sense that Iraq is charting a new course. Improving public services, modernizing the financial system, and reinforcing the rule of law will all contribute to long-term currency stability. The more Iraq can demonstrate competence and reliability in governance, the more likely it is that the dinar will gain strength and global trust. 7. Floating the dinar. A major shift in strategy. One of the most talked about potential changes is Iraq's plan to float its currency. But what exactly does that mean? In simple terms, a floating currency is one whose exchange rate is determined by market forces, primarily supply and demand, rather than fixed by the government. There are two main models: free float. The market entirely dictates the currency's value, and the government doesn't interfere. Managed float. The government or central bank occasionally steps in to stabilize the currency, especially in times of extreme volatility. Iraq is currently leaning toward a managed float system. This approach allows flexibility while still providing some degree of protection against extreme fluctuations. It's a safer way to gradually introduce a market-based system without risking financial instability. According to central bank sources, this plan is part of a wider monetary reform strategy. This may include introducing smaller denomination banknotes, refining the exchange rate mechanism, and enhancing the country's financial infrastructure. 8. What a floating dinar means for citizens and investors. So what would a floating dinar mean for everyday Iraqis, and for those holding dinars abroad? For Iraqi citizens, a floating currency could offer both benefits and risks. If the dinar appreciates due to strong oil revenues and political stability, purchasing power will increase. Goods and services from abroad may become more affordable. However, a sudden depreciation could lead to inflation, making basic commodities more expensive. That's why the government is rolling out education campaigns to help citizens understand what to expect. Banks, ATMs, and payment systems will all need to be updated to support the new model. For investors, the potential is huge, but so is the uncertainty. Currency markets are notoriously unpredictable. While some have made considerable profits from buying dinars at low values and selling them at peaks, others have faced losses. The key is thorough research, risk assessment, and a clear understanding of market dynamics. 9. The human element. Stories from the ground. Let's not forget the human side of this story. Over the past 2 decades, thousands of people, both inside and outside Iraq, have purchased dinars hoping for a substantial revaluation. Some were early adopters and benefited from small rate adjustments. Others are still waiting, caught in a cycle of hope and speculation. For Iraqis, the dinar isn't just a currency. It's tied to national pride, economic identity, and the dream of prosperity after years of conflict and instability. As reforms take shape, the currency becomes a symbol of Iraq's potential future. 10. Final thoughts. A nation in transition. Iraq stands at a crossroads. On one side is the legacy of war, sanctions, and economic mismanagement. On the other is a future filled with potential, driven by oil wealth, strategic reforms, and international engagement. Floating the currency, modernizing trade, improving government transparency, and reducing reliance on cash transactions are all bow.